Would you believe me if I told you this is what people have been posting about Gypsy Rose?
Stop it. Get some help.
Yeah, kind of insane. No, she's not a beauty guru, but rather known for her upsetting past and the action she took against her own mother. First of all, Gypsy has already been cancelled. Well, sort of. Although most people are hoping, with time, Gypsy is able to live the most normal life she possibly can after her past. Some are criticizing her for inconsistencies that have been popping up as more and more documentaries and interviews come out. This is what at least a few users online have expressed, and by inconsistencies, they clarified that under oath at Nick Godejohn's trial that they did some adult dancing, if you know what I mean, in the movie theater bathroom as a plan to fall pregnant so Dee Dee would let them be together. But in the Lifetime documentary, she claims they actually didn't do the dancing because certain body parts wouldn't collaborate. This user also said Gypsy has changed what the last thing her mom said to her was multiple times, but they did also say that these inconsistencies could be due to memory or trauma related, but it does affect and poke holes for her credibility. They actually advised for Gypsy to be cancelled as soon as possible so she doesn't get into trouble with the parole board. And following a podcast Gypsy appeared on, some viewers accused her of being manipulative, which just fueled this general idea. I understand both sides of this debate. Should she have been cancelled for it? That's up to you. But Gypsy responded to the haters in the most throwback way possible because she posted this onto Instagram. Yeah, keep calm and ignore the haters. Her caption even read, "Those who choose to stay ignorant about my personal growth as a person and place labels on me do not influence my happiness. Spread love, not hate." She has kept this photo up and actually got a puppy just recently, and I'm curious to know what your thoughts are about her Instagram keep calm post, because personally I would be lying if I said I didn't think it was a little funny.
Well girl, how old are you? I'm getting nervous.
Hold on, let's backtrack, but hold on to that age thought. On Instagram, Gypsy already began shouting out some people she knew, and this actually caused people to leave a ton of comments under her photos. In a now deleted photo, Gypsy originally posted a selfie of her and her nephew with the caption, "Hanging out with my nephew Noah," and then she tagged his account before saying, "Girls, show my boy some love and hit his DMs. Only the age appropriate ones though, he's only 15, LOL." Although it was pretty obvious for some that her nephew must have asked for the shout out, as he did quickly gain thousands of followers, and the caption would lead some to believe that, others were questioning his safety. It's not like Gypsy's a famous TikToker, she has done her time for her past, but regardless it still happened and may not have been the best audience watching her social media. Yes, a ton of young teens making edits of her, but stranger danger. With all the backlash with those worried about Noah's safety, she then wrote, "My nephew wanted me to post a picture and his parents and grandparents gave me permission to do it. It is all in good love." One person said, "I love you Gypsy, but please keep him safe. There's weirdos on here." And another person really went there and said, "Miss Girl, you of all people should know about the crazies you can meet online." And of course this user is referring to Gypsy's relationship with Nicholas Godejohn, who she met online and later planned together how they would take Dee Dee's life. No matter the goal, I think internet safety is something we should always have in the back of our minds, and with the internet being used now more than ever, it is important to keep our children's safety, and that includes Gypsy's nephew. I personally don't think Gypsy meant any harm in the situation. I just don't think she was thinking about safety when she should be. But I'm glad she did take the photo down, and hopefully it was because she recognized the dangers rather than because of the backlash she received. One of the first criticisms Gypsy faced following her release was actually targeted for her husband Ryan Anderson. The two got married back in 2022 after Ryan initially watched the HBO documentary about Gypsy, and this prompted him to mail her a letter. They tied the knot behind bars, but the day of Gypsy's release, he was right there with her at 3:30 a.m. If you don't mind waking up early for me, maybe you're the right one. Right away, paparazzi captured photos and Gypsy shared photos onto Instagram, which brought Ryan into the spotlight. Right away, people started to call the couple Lois and Peter Griffin as a way to mock his appearance. The public was canceling Ryan and even judging how they assumed his personality would be. I saw so many comments saying that he gives bad vibes, has a creepy look, and all that, and this was before he even said anything, and the only thing available was his physical appearance for people to judge, I guess. It was like Ryan was being cancelled for simply existing. He hasn't really done anything wrong that I am aware of, at least. And he even told people before Gypsy was released that he was a little anxious about being in the spotlight because he is a very private person. But don't worry, Gypsy was not gonna let her man get cancelled because she would defend him in her Instagram comments with the kind of iconic quote of,
"Living my best life and y'all can't take that from And the D is
As more and more time has passed, the public has started to see Ryan through a different pair of eyes, as most of the comments I see now are actually praising him for being seemingly supportive and genuine. But that's not the only criticism Gypsy has got regarding her husband, because yes, she is a free woman and can do whatever she wants, but many have expressed how Gypsy has never had time to herself in a way. Growing up, her mother was always right there with her. Then later on, it was Nick, who she was able to eventually act on the plan for the two that they created. And now that she is released from prison, she's already married to Ryan, and some just think she needs some time alone in order to truly grow as an individual. What do you think about this? Because I think Ryan could be good in the sense of her transitioning, but also she probably does need time to herself instead of relying on people for her whole life. Social media has given us memes, celebrities, and even cyber bullies. Wait, cyber bullies? Well, yeah, of course. Are you new to the internet, silly? Well, anyways, some were actually critical on Gypsy's online presence before she was even released from prison. Although social media is a great way to share things with others around the world, it is also the place where everything you say, do, or even acknowledge will be kept forever. And a ton of people have had online discussions through Reddit about how harmful her online presence will be to Gypsy herself in the long run. Although Gypsy is now free, she is still not as quote-unquote normal as people like you and I. Her past, especially her relationship with her mother Dee Dee and the act she committed with her ex, has affected her from a very young age, and I'm no specialist, but I'm sure she must be emotionally damaged, and all the traumatic events she's been through has impacted her everyday life since then. Plus, she spent 8 years of her life behind bars, which although you do get social interaction, it's not the same as living an actual free life. She wasn't freed from prison until December of last year, making her 32 years old, and she was just 23 when the night Dee Dee's life would be taken from her. That is almost 10 years already, and since she was only a few months old, her mom was already claiming she had a ton of health issues. So for her whole life, she has never been really normal, and now she's finally given a chance to live a normal life. Much of it has been spent online. Many people just think she should live her life offline and stay in therapy, but on social media, people have been looking up to her and treat her like an internet personality. And in 2024, cancel culture is very much alive, as it has been for years. I know we already talked about her social media presence, but another cancellation waiting to happen is her influencer career. Within days of her release from prison, a TikTok user posted a video about her own 2024 predictions, and her prediction was that Gypsy would be collaborating with Kim Kardashian, more specifically as a model for her Skims shapewear brand. Not only did this video gain thousands and hundreds of views, but the TikToker made a follow-up video of the North and Kim TikTok account actually liking her Gypsy Rose Skims model prediction. This ultimately means either Kim or North gave that post a like, and if it was North, she could probably convince her mom to do anything. The TikTok also shared how the whole campaign would align with Kim's views of justice reform, as she is a lawyer as well. But of course, both Kim and Gypsy are quite controversial for their online presence already, and whenever a controversial celebrity collaborates with anyone, they get some of that backlash as well. The Kardashians, although have quite the money, they also have quite the haters, and mixing that with Gypsy's current spotlight and controversies, it would either be a PR nightmare or a business win. Plus, Gypsy has talked about how she actually has tried to reach out to Kim in the past. Back in November, before she was released, she reached out through Twitter expressing gratitude for recommending the HBO documentary about her case. And in that same tweet, Gypsy did mention the idea of teaming up with the billionaire to bring tangible change to the justice system. Although some people call Gypsy attention-seeking, sources close to her have insisted that her commitment to using her platform for prison reform is actually genuine, as it is one of her top priorities since her release. No words from Kim yet, but I guess we'll see. I think right now Gypsy has kind of tiptoed into cancellation, because I'm sure it would be hard for her to avoid, as she does have a controversial past. But I wouldn't consider her cancelled like others, because she still has quite the following and her comments are not yet flooded with backlash. I do think it's important to her to maybe take a step back, as she has good intentions to become an advocate, but maybe she should prioritize her own growth first. I obviously want all your thoughts surrounding this, because everyone has different opinions.
5 dark secrets Gypsy Rose Blanchard is still hiding. First up, let's talk about the crime. On June 14th, 2015, sheriff's deputies found Dee Dee Blanchard face down in the bedroom of her house, lying on the bed because of wounds inflicted several days earlier. There was no sign of Gypsy, who, according to Dee Dee, had chronic conditions including leukemia, asthma, muscular dystrophy, and who had the mental capacity of a 7-year-old due to brain damage. The following day, police found Gypsy Rose in Wisconsin, where she had traveled with her boyfriend Nicholas Gojon, whom she had met online. It turns out that she had let him into the home and allegedly gave him duct tape, gloves, and a knife with the understanding that he would see to use it to end Dee Dee's life. Nicholas then carried out the crime while she was asleep. The two of them then fled together, and Wisconsin police arrested them at Nick's parents' home. This was a few days after Gypsy posted graphic messages from her mother's Facebook page. The disturbing part is that post is still up on Facebook today. It's chilling to see it and read all of the comments of people being worried for Dee Dee and Gypsy. During Gypsy's interrogation, she acts shocked that her mother had her life ended by someone. She says, "I don't know what happened with my mom." Then the officer says, "Why don't you just tell me? You know what happened to your mom, I know that you know." At this point, Gypsy refuses to admit anything and says, "You think that it was me? Why would you think that it's me? I've always loved my mom. My mom and I are best friends." She continued to maintain her innocence until Nick revealed the truth. During a prison phone call with her dad, she tells him that what was being said about her on the news wasn't necessarily true, and she swore that she is really innocent. Eventually, her and Nick were both formally arrested, and when Gypsy's attorney obtained her medical records from Louisiana, he secured a plea bargain and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. As we all know though, Gypsy ended up getting out of prison early. Next up, we have the fact that the illnesses were fake. So despite everything everyone was told by Gypsy and her mother, she wasn't actually sick, her mother was. Dee Dee had Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a mental disorder in which a parent exaggerates, fabricates, or induces illness in a person under their care to obtain sympathy or attention. Dee Dee had been making her daughter pass herself off as younger and pretend to be disabled and chronically ill, subjecting her to unnecessary surgery and medication, and controlling her through physical and psychological mistreatment. Gypsy was not aware of this, and when she found out that she could walk and wasn't fully sick, that's when she came up with her plan to end the life of her mother. After the disclosure of how Dee Dee had treated Gypsy, sympathy for Dee Dee as the victim shifted to her daughter as a long-term victim of mistreatment. Gypsy is quoted at Nick's trial in 2018 saying, "If it weren't for Nick and how dark he was, I would not have gone through with it." And to this day, she still does blame Nick for the whole thing, even though a lot of it was her idea. Apparently, Nick wanted the crime to be committed in a much more gruesome way. He wanted it to be messy, but Gypsy was headstrong about calling the shots. After all, it was her mother. During the trial, she explained under oath how a tasteless and odorless poison was too hard to find, that arson would be too complicated, and a firearm would be too messy. So she stole a hunting knife from a Walmart, and then she mailed Nick more than $1,000 that she stole from Dee Dee. He was to purchase a round-trip bus ticket for himself and a one-way for Gypsy to join him back in Wisconsin. The rest of the money was for food and a room at a nearby Days Inn hotel. Now what's really crazy is the fact that Nick somehow got a harsher sentence than Gypsy, even though she was the mastermind. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. On to the next point, we have to talk about the fact that Gypsy was keeping in touch with Nick for years. Gypsy said that she was still pining over Nick while they were in the county jail. They exchanged letters by hiding them in the recreation room and writing love messages on the wall. Later, when they were both in prison, the former couple exchanged 2 letters. When Nick found out that she was engaged to another man, Ryan Anderson, he accused her of adultery and said that they were still married under God's law. She replied that she never wanted to get back together with him, but that she still felt a sense of guilt, which is a reason why she testified on his behalf at the trial. Another secret we didn't know until later was that Gypsy and her mother used her wheelchair for shoplifting. Because they were recognized as just a loving mother caring for her special needs child, Gypsy said that no one suspected they were stealing. They used her wheelchair to knock items off of shelves and hide them under her princess dress or her beanie cap. Dee Dee actually told Gypsy that she was 5 years younger than her actual age. She dressed her in children's clothes, and she wore a beanie over her shaved head as a part of this cancer ruse. The two of them would also swap the barcodes on expensive items with those on cheaper ones. And the crazy thing is, they didn't even need many of the items that they stole. Apparently her mother was a major hoarder, and their bedroom had so much stuff piled up in it that she needed to carve a pathway from the door to the bed just to get out. Now let's talk about her marriage. As of April 12th in 2019, Gypsy was reported to be engaged to a prison pen pal. His name was Ryan Scott Anderson, and he started writing to her after watching the HBO documentary Mummy Dead and Dearest, which tells Gypsy's story. They knew each other for a year and a half, and Gypsy's family approved of him. In an interview, she talked about her morning wedding with Ryan, saying it was very, very small and we didn't have any guests. It was just something for him. In the future, she said that they plan on having a reception, like a redo wedding with all their family and their friends and the dress and the cake. Quote, "Our prison wedding was just something to where we can make our vows to each other. If I had another chance to redo everything, I don't know if I would go back to when I was a child and tell my aunts and uncles that I'm not sick and that my mummy makes me sick." She went on to say, "No one will ever hear me say I'm glad she's gone or proud of what I did. I regret it every single day." Her decision to have Dee Dee's life ended came after she tried to run away ahead of yet another needless procedure. She claims that she fled her home only to be tracked down within hours. Quote, "She found me, brought me back, and put in place paperwork saying I was incompetent and she had power of attorney over me. At that point, Gypsy felt there was nowhere left to turn. She said she was trying really hard to figure out another way. That's when there was a conversation between her and Nick. Apparently, he told her, 'I would do anything to protect you.' And we know what happened next. After years of reflection, self-work, and therapy, when speaking about Dee Dee, Gypsy said that she did not deserve it, saying she was a sick woman and unfortunately, she was not educated enough to see that at the time. Quote, "She deserved to be where I am, sitting in prison doing time for criminal behavior. In the end, she said it is still a journey though, and that she's really trying to come to a place of forgiveness for her, for herself, and the situation. Quote, "I still love my mom and I'm starting to understand that it was something that may be out of her control, like an addict or an impulse. That helps me with coping and accepting what happened." Lastly, let's mention something that not many people actually know about, the fact that Gypsy is now a millionaire. According to one source, her net worth has reached an estimated $3 million. Wow. Now, how does one spend nearly 9 years in prison with no previous employment experience only to somehow become a millionaire upon their release? Well, her financial status is undeniably linked to her unexpected prominence as a public figure. The documentaries and true crime adaptations featuring her have not only contributed to her net worth, but they've also fueled the ongoing public interest in her case. From participating in documentaries that delve into the complexities of her case, to signing book deals that offer readers insights into her life, she has strategically leveraged her unique experiences. Not only that, but her presence on social media platforms with over 8.3 million followers on Instagram, involvement in speaking engagements, and sponsorships all contribute to her overall income. Now, allegedly, Gypsy's journey into the public eye was neither planned nor conventional, but she wants to use her platform to raise awareness about the intricate issues surrounding Munchausen syndrome by proxy. As we know, her case led to a major media frenzy. Many documentaries and films were made about Gypsy and her mother. There are countless podcasts released over the years detailing the case, and people just cannot seem to get enough of it. With this fame, even before she was released from prison, many young people fully embraced Gypsy into stan culture, or basically obsessive fandoms. There were countdowns to her prison release and videos made on TikTok glorifying her life and her story. After she started her social media presence, comments under her TikTok videos read, "We love you, Gypsy Rose," and calling her an absolute queen. But we all know that fan culture is pretty complex. Fans are often dedicated to one person and invested in how that person acts. Many people think of Gypsy's rise to fame as disturbing, dystopian, and just plain strange. In fact, one TikTok creator posted a video looking at her and the so-called influencer pipeline, saying, "We want her to perform for us." They actually predicted that once Gypsy gains too much fame and popularity online and starts receiving brand deals, people will turn on her, wanting her to be humbled. And that seems to be exactly what has been happening. Of course, some people also hope that she just stays off of social media and takes the time that she needs to reacquaint herself in the world. Right now, she has 17 videos on her TikTok account with over 510 million views, and she's created multiple viral audios. The attention she's gotten in the past 3 weeks is just pure insanity. So it's no surprise people are starting to question this person that is so very admired. She's still so new to social media, and already Gen Z is obsessed with her. In response to that, she said, "I'm coming into this brand new. I feel like I'm a new baby bird on the internet. I don't even know how to do all of the emojis. I think they relate to me in a sense because I'm coming out and experiencing things for the first time." While going on The View, Gypsy spoke about her life in prison and also her plans to use her platform to advocate for other victims of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. And it seems like that's what she's actually going to do. It seems like everyone is talking about Gypsy Rose Blanchard right now. She's back in the world and has been been getting a lot of attention recently. Some of it good and some of it not so great. After all, she has been away for more than 8 years. Now, plenty of celebrities have been reacting to her release, and it seems like everyone has a different opinion. So let's get into it. Patricia Arquette. The actress is speaking out about Gypsy Rose Blanchard's release from prison for the first time since the news broke. If you didn't know, Patricia Arquette portrayed Gypsy's mother Dee Dee Blanchard in the 2019 drama series The Act. She has now spoken up about her reaction when she heard that Gypsy was being released. She said she's all grown up and she's been through a lot, and there's this weird thing of art imitating life and then the reality. And I think from someone who had a very specific, difficult childhood to come into this age of Instagram craziness, TikTok, I don't know, I hope it's not too much. Patricia hopes that people are gentle on her and that she's able to enjoy her freedom, because no one should ever go through that. Patricia also said that although she was fascinated by Dee Dee and Gypsy's story because the details of it were so unnatural, her own children were apparently against her playing the character, who we all know had Munchausen syndrome by proxy. She explained that they all knew the story and they did not want her to portray someone like that on screen. Apparently, her kids were concerned that she was actually going to turn into the character when she played her. But of course, she ended up taking the role despite all the skepticism, and she received an Emmy and a Golden Globe for her portrayal, so the controversial decision paid off in the end. She was also right about Gypsy's struggles after being released. She's still new to social media, and already Gen Z is pretty much obsessed with her. In her own interview, Gypsy said, "I'm coming into this brand new. I feel like I'm a new baby bird on the internet. I don't even know how to do all of the emojis. I think they relate to me in a sense because I'm coming out and experiencing things for the first time." So all of this is just a first-time experience for her, which is where the appeal might be. The fact that she's learning about her identity while Gen Z is learning about theirs too. Joey King. The actress is wishing Gypsy Rose Blanchard well after her release from prison. Joey actually played Gypsy in Hulu's series The Act, and she was recently approached by photographers asking for her opinion on the news. She reluctantly answered by saying, "I'm so happy that she's released. I'm so happy for her, she deserves freedom." Though she did dodge a few questions about whether or not she had spoken to Gypsy or has any plans to in the future. Some fans online have been joking about the fact that Gypsy actually hates Joey King because of the way that she portrayed her in a series. From the outside looking in, it's clear that she did a lot of research for the role. The voice was spot on, and so were all the subtle mannerisms. But even though she put a lot of effort into it and did a brilliant job of acting, there is still the ethical question of whether or not we should be making these true crime stories all for entertainment. Thankfully, Gypsy herself hasn't actually watched the series, and she has no plans to do so. When she was asked about her decision, she said it's because she had to live it. I mean, after all, she's suffered her whole life. Now that she's finally free from it, there's no reason that she would want to revisit that place again. It's going to take years for her to truly move past everything that's happened, which is why it sounds traumatic for her to even watch the story based on her own life. She also spoke up about the biggest misconception in her case, which was the way that her mother was portrayed on screen. She said, "I think people tend to forget, or maybe they don't even know, that the reason why my mom was able to snowblind the doctors so much and the community is because she was so friendly. In the shows, they're portraying her as mean all the time, and that's not how it was." According to Gypsy, she was very charming, very relatable. She would give a hug to anyone. She liked to cook for people. Her personality was bubbly and friendly to the outside world. Then of course, we didn't really get to see what happened behind closed doors, where she was a different person entirely. Amanda Knox. Amanda has stepped forward to defend Gypsy Rose Blanchard as she attempts to return to a normal life, saying she's in a new kind of prison, and this time the prison is the prison of public opinion. The author and activist was convicted of the 2007 hit involving her roommate Meredith Kircher while she was studying in Italy. The now 36-year-old was freed from prison in 2011 and has since returned to normal life. But she says trying to return to normalcy after being incarcerated was difficult. Amanda says that she believes Gypsy Rose's sudden rise to fame and the circumstances surrounding her mother's passing might make it difficult to overcome her years in prison. In a piece for the Free Press, Amanda wrote, "When I look at Gypsy, even though she was guilty and I was innocent, I see the blundering into freedom in the exact same way that I did. I've learned that I am more than the worst thing that ever happened to me, but where there is value in sharing my story with others, I'm entitled to do so." The same goes for Gypsy. Amanda went on to say, now that she's admitted to what she's done and served her time, she doesn't owe anybody anything. According to experts, Gypsy was a victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Dee Dee falsely claimed that she suffered from an array of illnesses, including leukemia and muscular dystrophy. Her mother shaved her head, forced her into a wheelchair, had some some of her teeth removed, and paraded her at charitable events like a sickly child, including fully paid trips to Disney World, all because she wanted to be seen as a caretaker. She lied about an induced illness in her own daughter. The truth about the situation only came out after Gypsy arranged for an online boyfriend to take out Dee Dee in 2015, Joy Behar. While going on The View, Gypsy spoke about her life in prison and her plans to use her platform to advocate for other victims of Munchausen by proxy. During the interview, she said, "If there is someone out there watching right now, please listen to me. Heed my words, that you are not alone in this situation. There are other ways out. I did it the wrong way." But this is where she gets interrupted by Joy Behar, who seemed to forget that Gypsy actually had committed a crime. She said, no honey, don't say that. You had no choice really." And then in response, Gypsy said, "Well, I did. I did something wrong. I paid my dues for it." It was only at this moment that Joy seemed to remember what happened to the death of her mother, because she says, "Oh, you mean that part? Oh yeah, never mind." Of course, this part of the interview went viral because of how ridiculous it was. At a certain point, Anna Navarro feels a need to say that the crime itself was wrong, which just speaks to how confused Joy really was. It's great to see that she was siding with Gypsy, considering the fact that she was a victim of her circumstances, but she very casually almost justified the crime. So it is a little awkward for those people who were watching, but hey, at least she got out of it alright. And it's definitely not the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened on The View. In the new docuseries, there's a number of times when family or professionals could have stepped in and removed Gypsy from her mother's care. Speaking about it now, Gypsy feels that a big part of it was that there were people who had suspicions, family included, but nobody actually wanted to rock the boat. It wasn't brought up to other people and it was not talked about. So people kept their suspicions to themselves just for fear of upsetting her mother and ultimately pushing them away as friends. She does believe that certain doctors also had their suspicions, but at the end of the day, it also has to do with money. She said they were making money off of her, and in that profession, that came first. At one point though, CPS did actually come to their house to check on her, but they were asking the wrong kinds of questions, saying things like, "Show me your arms, show me your legs, let me check for bruises." And at that point, her mum never actually hit her, so of course they didn't end up finding anything. They just came the one time and then they closed the file on her. Unfortunately, that visit only caused Dee Dee to become increasingly more paranoid. She actually went as far as to remove the doorbell on their door because she was just so worried about CPS coming back. When Gypsy Rose was released from prison, one of the first things she planned to do was try to meet Taylor Swift. In prison, she spent all of her commissary money buying all her albums, but sadly she has not managed to meet her favorite artists. It was reported that she was forced to leave Missouri by her parole officer, where the Chiefs game where she planned to meet Taylor was held. So it's upsetting that she still was not allowed to meet her idol, though it's not entirely surprising. But she has been up to a lot since leaving prison, including going shopping and a welcome home party. The very first thing that Gypsy did after she was released was going to buy a new pair of shoes. She was filmed going into a shoe shop with her husband Brian Anderson, wearing unfastened boots that didn't seem to fit her. She was then pictured absolutely beaming with her new pair of trainers. Her first post on Instagram after being released was captioned "First selfie of freedom," where she showed off her new pink iPhone 15 in a hotel room next to a crate of Dr. Pepper. Since coming home, Gypsy had a welcome party as well as a New Year's Eve party. Her sister Mia Blanchard posted a video of her on Instagram with a confetti cannon in front of huge welcome home balloons and a big cake. She also had a party on New Year's Eve where she posted a photo of a New Year's Eve kiss with her husband Ryan. In another picture she posted a few days later, she showed off her new wedding ring as well as a fresh set of nails. That picture was captioned, "Finally get to wear my beautiful wedding ring." Since her release, Gypsy has also done a series of high-profile interviews along with her husband, who she met while she was in prison. And she's been very active on social media, which has been met with mixed reactions. In a comment section on Instagram, she gushed about her love life and defended her husband from backlash, writing, "They jealous because you are rocking my world every night. Yeah, I said it, the D is fire. Happy wife, happy life." It's been said that Gypsy has been a prisoner twice in her life, once as an inmate and before that at the hands of her own mother. So after serving 8 years behind bars, she's now ready to start fresh and finally experience freedom for the first time.